Today, we become legends.
Today's Titan Talk discussed some hotfixes and balance changes for Janus, chests and traveler markets, Slash, and a whole lot more. So without further ado, let's jump into today's recap. First up, there's been a few hotfixes since the last show which fixed a few bugs I'll put on screen now. There's also been a few shifts to Janus that have come out since its launch yesterday. They buffed the int scaling on his 1 by 10%, the int scaling on his 2 by 10% at base, and 3% on the double hits, but they nerfed the bonus scaling on his 3 by 10% at all ranks, and also the magical protection shred from 25% to 15%, but also buffed his ultimate to apply this shred as well. The shred applied by the ult will apply to the ult damage itself as well, so the ult now inherently ignores 15% protections. There was also a Serverside fix that went out this morning which fixed 2E's aspect basic attacks not being able to hit things like wards, as well as him getting a free bounce off of towers. They're also aware of Janus being able to use portals while crippled, and they're working on a fix for it, but no ETA on when that's going to be ready. An issue with the Ultimate Founders Edition free Ascension passes is also being tracked, and they're working on a fix. If you had already claimed a reward level at the free tier, when you got the Ascension Pass as part of your Ultimate Edition, you didn't get the premium rewards for that tier, so they're looking into a fix for that which should roll out sometime later this week. They also have a potential fix rolling out for some of the invalid Steam token issues that wouldn't let people log into the game. For now, just relogging until it lets you in is a good workaround. There's also a build that should be rolling out later today with fixes for Ymir ult not being able to be early cancelled, Jingwei being able to 3 out of banishes, and Kali's 3 not triggering healing item effects. Kilgoon did mention that they had an all-new god in the playtest today, as well as 4 ported gods. They did say on a previous show that work is still being done on brand new gods, they just want more of a big patch with more hype around their releases rather than just dropping them every 8 weeks like a normal patch. But it's good to hear that a brand new god is playable enough to be in the internal playtests. For those that haven't been following the news, this will not be the H god, that one has been delayed. There's going to be a different new god coming before them. Someone asked about the lighting changes that we got in this patch, and Kilgoon said this is basically their first general pass on lighting improvements in a global sense. They are continuing to work on area specific lighting as well as fog and making the jungle feel more jungly and dark in certain areas. He also mentioned that some materials and textures will probably need touch-ups when they're closer to being finalized on the lighting, as some materials that look good under the old lighting will look a bit off under the new lighting and might need some changes. They also mentioned that graphics in general is a bit more of a balancing act for a competitive game like Smite 2, and some of the systems like Nanite and Lumen from UE5 won't be able to reach the same heights as they could in a single player experience built in the same engine, because players would not be happy with Smite 2 running at 30 FPS on console or 60 FPS on high-end PCs. Someone asked if you could continue to get 25 to 50 diamonds per star you get on a god, and Kilgoon said it does sound like a good idea in theory, but there's 2 main problems with it. The first is that it encourages botting or players not actually trying in their games and just grinding to get free currency, but also they found across the history of Smite 1 that players generally like to have a realistic achievable endpoint for systems like this, and it can feel kind of bad if that endpoint is like ridiculously far away. For example, the Smite 1 battle passes had 60 levels, and at one point they increased that to 90 levels and added additional rewards without taking anything else away. You still got the exact same stuff for your 60 levels as you did before, but you could now grind an extra 30 levels on top of that to get extra stuff. But the feedback to that change was actually mostly negative, as players felt like they were being forced to grind 90 levels now instead of 60 to complete a battle pass, so adding diamonds per star might have a similar effect. General new player experience stuff was brought up a few times, and Kilgoon said that Action Cam 1, the one where you can fire basic attacks into the sky or the ground, has actually had noticeably higher new player retention rates than Action Cam 2 with their testing, so they will probably be going back to that as the default for new players, but they are also working on getting a system in that presents the player with a choice of the 3 different camera settings and lets them pick, but it looks like Action Cam 1 would probably be the recommended option in that system. Someone asked if they're aware of the Danzaburo ult going through people bug, and Kilgoon said yes, they're not entirely sure what exactly is causing it at the moment, but they're working on nailing it down, and this also happens with other similar abilities like Mordred's big ult and Geb's dash. Someone asked when they will bring back tier 5/$100 skins, and Kilgoon said it's sort of hard to do right now because generally those kinds of skins were mostly obtained as event rewards where the whole event costs $100, and very few people actually just bought the skin for $100 straight up after the event was over. And right now they just don't have the capacity to be making 20 skins and a bunch of other stuff to make an Odyssey style event, and they feel like just releasing a tier 5 style skin for $100 wouldn't result in many purchases. I feel like the Saga Vaults are sort of there in between with that right now. They're more expensive and flashy than a regular skin and take more work, but are nowhere near $100. There was a question on when we might get match of the day modes like Omnipotence back, and Hinduman said that's generally just not where their focus is right now, and they feel like their time is better served on improving more core areas of the game that affect more players. Kilgoon added that right now a lot of their gameplay and level design focus is on the Conquest map and improvements there, so they don't have a ton of spare resources to be investing in something like Match of the Day modes. But they will come at some point, it's just a matter of priority. Slash was brought up again in a similar vein, and Hindu said he does see the value in the mode, but it's hard to justify right now due to its low popularity in Smite 1. Kilgoon added that it sort of falls into a jack of all trades, master of none kind of situation, which I thought was a good way to describe it. It sits right in the middle of Arena, Joust, and Conquest, taking some elements from all of them, but most players would rather just play the mode that is more focused on the exact playstyle they like. If you want a try-hard tactical laning experience, you go to Conquest. If you want a smaller, faster, but still tactical mode, you go to Joust. If you want to just fight all the time with low respawn timers, you go to Arena. It was only a few players in the grand scheme of things that really found their home right in the middle of all three of those playstyles. Most just went to the game mode that was more focused on what they wanted out of the game. And finally, someone asked if they could add a fancy chest animation to chest openings like CSGO and other games do, and Kilgoon said he generally doesn't love that approach as he feels like it is mostly there to exploit people's vulnerabilities. What you got from the chest is instantly decided as soon as you click it, but mechanics like that can make it seem like you got close to what you wanted, and they're purely there to incentivize more vulnerable people into buying another one, which is a W stance in my opinion. He did say that chests as a whole is of course not something he or the company has a problem with, that's why they're in the game. Players generally tend to like chests as a way of getting something random that you probably like for cheaper. Someone followed up by asking why so many skins come as travelers now and not in chests, and Kilgoon said it's for the same reason really. Players like chests, but they seem to like travelers more as they've been doing very well for them, which is why there's travelers coming in basically every patch now. But that's everything discussed on today's Titan Talk. Don't forget to drop a like before you leave if you found these helpful, and I'll catch you guys for another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.